Hey, how's it going? I'm going to follow my train of thought from this morning. I was writing my morning pages. Do I need to go into details here? Actually, I think I do, because what I wrote this morning is behind a paywall, because I was talking about family stuff. So I need to be careful what I say. I don't want to talk too much about other family members, but it is something that relates to me and my background, and about me as a father as well, because it pertains really to my son who is now 16 and is having a really hard time at school. He's struggling with he's in S5, which is the junior senior year. So it's the penultimate year of high school. And when you go in to do your hires here in Scotland, he's having a hard time. We're having a hard time as a family. We're trying to come up with solutions and stuff. And it's bringing to mind for me a lot of how I felt when I was at school. And we'll go into the autism first. My son was diagnosed in 2012. I don't have a diagnosis, but it's as plain as day. I can see patterns in his behaviour, and I can replay how it was for me at school, and I can see patterns in my dad's behaviour as well. It seems to be on that side of the family. And in the late 70s, early 80s, it was a different world, wasn't it? There was I'd never heard of autism until Rain Man came out, I guess. When was that? Was that the 80s? It probably was, actually. But it wasn't anything like what I'd seen in my family. That was a different level. So when I went through school, I was a poorly behaved pupil, let's put it that way. Constantly on behaviour chits, plunky chits, detention, suspension. Left with one hire, which was woodwork, and I only got that because I skived all the other classes and went to work on my woodwork project in 5th year. I tried to leave at the end of 4th year and they wouldn't let me because my birthday's October. So when the school year starts in August, I was too young, I was only 15. So I had to do 5th year against my will, and I barely ever attended. It was just, I used to plunk it all the time, which is truancy for those that didn't grow up around Ayrshire. And a plunky chit was a pink slip of paper that you got from the plunky man. So that was the truancy officer who would come and find you if you were plunking it. And you would end up being issued with this pink slip where you had to get it signed every class to say that you'd been. I was on loads of them. Behaviour chits were blue, and similar deal, you got them signed after each class, but you got a grade for your behaviour as well. So that was my schooling. I always thought it was just me. I was a bad boy and I deserved everything I got. It wasn't until years later, when I was working as a translator with a master's degree, when a former teacher who was working beside me as a translator, he and I got talking about school, and he raised the idea that the school had a part to play. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, so now as a parent, I'm getting to see that from the other side. My wife, God bless her, she's been spending a lot of time advocating for our son. And yesterday she wrote a rather long and strongly worded email to try and get some help. So that's what prompted me to write what I wrote this morning in my morning pages, which you can read if you go to camscampbell.com. You'll need to sign up as a member to get access to my morning pages newsletter. I don't want that public. I'd rather have it out there for people who really care about me and who want to get a glimpse into what life looks like for a 50-year-old recovering addict, parent, all of that. So yeah, that's where we are. So it got me thinking about autism. It got me wondering about whether the fear that has kind of run my life and held me back has come about as a result of the trauma that I experienced then. Maybe trauma is too strong a word. Perhaps not though. Perhaps it's not. I mean, there was capital punishment when I was at school and in the house, you know. I was very fearful of my dad when I used to get caught misbehaving. You know, there would be some belts and that kind of thing. And I grew up, in fact I think it was until I met my wife, who's very anti any of that kind of thing, and we got talking about it, and I was one of them, well, it didn't do me any harm, you know. In fact, I remember her writing a letter to the Arran Banner. This is long before we'd moved here to Arran, but we were having the newspaper sent out to us in Luxembourg. There's a fly on the lens. Yeah, we had it sent out every week because we were looking for job opportunities here on the island. We wanted to move here. And she wrote a letter to the editor responding to, it might have been another letter or an article, I can't remember, but it was to do with smacking. And she put her thoughts down there. She didn't pull her punches, much as she didn't in the letter she wrote yesterday. And she talked all about her views on smacking, and I was like, oh, you know, I don't think it had really come up. Maybe it had, and I did know her views, but I didn't realise how strongly she felt. So yeah, my point is that there may be some kind of trauma that I'm carrying from those years as a young misbehaving teenager. And that could be what led to my fears and anxieties and imposter syndrome and not excelling, and why we're still kind of struggling financially at the age of 50, even though we both have master's degrees. It's just, you know, I'm trying to figure that out, you know what I mean? I'm going to turn around here now and head back. So, the other thing, of course, is alcohol. When I was the age my son is now, I was already drinking quite a lot. Half bottles of vodka, half bottles of whiskey were the thing at 16, 17. Bottles of Diamond White, which is a strong kind of cider-based fizzy wine. I don't even really know, a cidery thing. 6 bottles of that, and you'd be well on the way. And at that age I was drinking to blackout, but you know what I remember from drinking at that age was that it made me feel that I fitted in. You know, when you hear that a lot in the rooms of AA, that people, for the first time ever, when they took a drink, they felt normal, you know. Now Hamish hasn't had a drink. He's never hung around in company like that. He doesn't really go out much, to be honest. And I do have a kind of underlying fear that the first time he does get that feeling, he might have the same thoughts I did, which is like, okay, I can actually interact with people socially and not be afraid, you know. So I know that carrying that fear around in me is completely pointless, so I try and let it go. But it's there nevertheless, you know. And what we don't want to see is for him to end up failing at school, the same as I did. Now, thankfully the school, or society in general, is much more aware of you know, all kinds of special needs that were not recognised back in the 70s and 80s. The world has moved on, it's advanced in a good way in a lot of ways. And they are trying, you know, they've had multiple meetings with us to come up with solutions, and I think what we're coming up against now is lack of resources. The school's not being supported well enough by the local authority, so it's kind of getting to political level rather than an individual level. So we need to keep pushing and try and give him the opportunities that he deserves. And you know, I'm so proud of my wife for doing what she's doing. I mean, honestly, when I go into the school for these meetings, I still get that feeling that I used to get in that environment of, oh my God, I'm sitting here with the headmaster. I'll sit and look at my feet. You know, it's ridiculous and pathetic, and it's getting better. You know, I have found ways of speaking up and advocating for my son, so I'm not just sitting there passively feeling fear. Oh, hang on, car coming. So it's getting better. You know, I can sit in the school environment now and not feel that feeling of having just been called to the headmaster's office, you know, but it is still there a little bit. My wife, though, she's been amazing. She's been really putting a lot of time and effort, and as you know, as parents should, you know, and I'm there really to support her more than anything else. Well, obviously to support my son in any way that I can, but I think I'm better placed supporting my wife as she embarks on this next phase of trying to get the help that our son needs. And we'll see how it pays off, but you know, I don't want him to end up feeling like I've kind of grown up. I don't want him to be held back because of feelings of low self-esteem or imposter syndrome, or feeling like he's less than because of his condition. That's just not right. So yeah, that's really me for today. Autism, alcoholism, family. It's all about love, isn't it? Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Love. So I send out love to all of you, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.